Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Hi, I'm Bernie. Hi, Bernie. I got to tell you how this situation came about. These two people have a timeshare down in Carlsbad, California, and over the Martin Luther King weekend, what was it, January, February, or something like that, they invited me down for lunch. And I said, oh, great, go anywhere for a free lunch. So we're sitting having lunch, and about an hour, it goes into the, and then she finally says, Bernie, by the way, do you know I'm a chairman of the AA convention is coming up? And I said, yeah. And she says, and I was wondering if you'd be the Al-Anon speaker, the Al-Anon luncheon speaker. And I tell you, I was really shocked. But it took about 5 minutes of my ego to kick in. And so I said, well, excuse me, I have to go to the restroom. So I thought about it, and I came back out, and I said, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And so before I had the arthritis in the knee, I used to go walking every morning. And ever since January, February, every morning my walk, I was thinking about this particular job that I have today, and so I have no idea what's going to come out of my mouth, but I'll do my best. First thing I want to do is acknowledge that a little absence that is today. So anyway, I have to remember her. And also I want to acknowledge the fact that, when I first came into this program many years ago, and there's a lot of my history sitting in this room today, there weren't too many men in Al-Anon at that time. And so at this particular time, I hope you don't mind, I would like to have the gentlemen Al-Anons that are in this room to please stand up. We have the same feelings as the ladies do. And I remember when I came into this program, I would hear the ladies talking about the things they did with their alcoholic and the things they used to do about how they dealt with their alcoholics or didn't deal with their alcoholics. And when I came into this program, I realized that I did the exact same things as a lot of the ladies in this fellowship did. When I came into Al-Anon, I was a broken person. I thought I was a failure as a husband, failure as a man, because 40 years ago I was, the Marlboro man, and he was supposed to be the leader of the family, and the woman is supposed to do what you're supposed to do, and blah blah, and it wasn't working for me, because I met my alcoholic where I worked, and fell in love with her at work. And one of the things I fell in love with was all the young people used to go out on happy hours after work, and I loved the way this woman conducted herself. She used to drink martinis up, and had her cigarettes like this, and it's just, and I thought, oh, I want that. Because she was a very popular person, and I was new to California. I didn't know a lot of people, so I thought, well, I gravitated towards her, She used to teach dancing at the Arthur Murray Studios also, so she was, at all the parties, she was a hit with her dancing and everything. So we started going out on dates and things. And another reason I dated her, too, is because I was new in California, and she had a car, and I didn't. So I would talk her into going out, and then she would pick me up at my place. We'd go out and do whatever we were going to do. We'd come home, park behind my apartment house, and talk all hours of the morning. And so eventually we became friends, and we decided to get married, and which we did. But there was shortly after we did get married, I don't know how shortly after it was, but anyway, her drinking became a little bit of a problem. And alcoholics that was not in my vocabulary. I didn't know what that was. I just figured out that she was just, her drinking just bothered me an awful lot. And what happened was that she would go to work, and she would come home and fix dinner and everything like that, and then she would fall asleep, pass out, and it's no fun sitting with someone watching television or something and no reaction. I couldn't hit her and say, "Oh, wasn't that funny?" or something like that, because she was passed out. So I thought I was married to a sleeper, and to further endorse this feeling that I had, her family, they live out in Ontario, California here. I asked her mother about this part of the problem, and she showed me a certificate from medical people that said members of this family have a tendency to sleep a lot. And I said, well, there's my answer, she's a sleeper. So we used to, I used to get her up on, on Friday nights would go out to dinner and to movies just to keep her upright and participate with me, So the drinking progressed, and I started doing the things that like I mentioned, I heard ladies in this program do. I started watching how much she was drinking. I started measuring it. Now, I tell you, we had this buffet in the dining area with these beautiful crystal decanters on the buffet, and each decanter was filled with a different kind of alcohol. And of course, gin was her drink of choice, and I would go to this decanter of gin, and I was going to mark it how much she was drinking, but I didn't want her to know what I was doing, so I would take it and turn it upside down, and mark the level with the level upside down, and then put it back on the buffet. And so I would check in on this decanter every once in a while, and I would took it over to Jane, and I said, "Okay, Jane, look at this." And I turned the thing upside down, and I said, "Look how much you're drinking," and she looked at me like, "What the kind of a crazy person does that?" And that was true, but I thought, this was something that I should be doing, is measuring and letting her know how much she's drinking, And I should have realized that there was another problem, because when I told you I asked her parents, her mother, about the sleeping thing, and I should have realized it too, because they had a dog named Gin. So her mother liked her martinis too. She had 4 older brothers who, in my opinion, had a little problem also. But anyway, her drinking progressed, and she quit. She had to job hop because she couldn't take discipline anywhere, So she would job hop. And I remember one. Now this was a period of 14 years while I was married to this lady, so there were a lot of good times. I didn't mean to say that there wasn't fun sometimes, but most of the time it was not. As far as I was concerned, it wasn't. I remember we lived in downtown Los Angeles because we worked in downtown, and we lived in the Wilshire district. And I remember there was a liquor store down the street from where we lived, and I'd stop in there after work sometimes to pick up some essential things. And one day I went in there, and the guy says, "Hey, Bernie," he says, "listen, He said, if any time you come in, come to buy something, and if you don't think you have enough money, don't worry about it. I can start a tab for you. And I said, well, why are you asking me that? I always pay you. He says, well, Jane came down this afternoon, and she plopped these rolled coins on the counter and says, give me whatever amount of gin this will buy. So I thought, I'm starting to think there's a problem coming up here. I remember one time my brother, who was a medical doctor, came out to visit, and I was telling him about Jane's drinking, and he says, well, what you want to do is just have her. This is what the medical profession used to think at one time. He said, well, have her stop drinking, and so that give her body a little chance to regenerate and fix up her organs and what have you, and then she can go back to drinking again, And I thought, oh, fine, that sounds good to me. That wasn't working either. That didn't work either. So one time I came home from work. It was one of our anniversaries, and I was expecting dinner when I came home. And when I came home that night, I found her passed out, and I checked out in the kitchen, and the Cornish game hens were defrosted, sitting on the counter still, so no dinner. And I decided, well, all right, that's it. I'm going to do something about this. So the following day, I took off work, looked up in the yellow pages, under alcohol, and called up this telephone number, and this lady referred me to a place that I could send her out in the San Fernando Valley. And she said, in the meantime, she says, by the way, have you ever heard of Al-Anon? And I says, no, I haven't. And she says, well, let me direct you to a couple of meetings. And I says, fine, I'll do anything, And so she did. I went to 3 Al-Anon meetings in the Hollywood area. And to this day, I cannot tell you what I heard at those meetings because I don't remember. Because I was attending those meetings, but my head and everything else was at that place where she was, trying to figure out how she was getting sober, And so that was 41 years ago. So I do not attribute that was the beginning of my Al-Anon, because after 3 meetings, she came out of that recovery place. I quit going to Al-Anon. We moved. We bought a house in Hacienda Heights, and we moved there because I thought, well, she has a new house, not an apartment. She'll have this all responsibility of taking care of the house and decorating and doing all that stuff like that, which she did. So I thought. One summer, my dad came out to visit, and one night I came home from dinner, and he pulled me aside, and he says, "Hey, Bernie," he says, I don't know if you don't know this or not, but Jane drinks all day long, And just when she remembers that you're coming home, she washes out the glass and puts it back up in the cupboard, And you know what? I guess I must have been in denial, because when I came home on those nights, I never thought anything wrong with it because I didn't think she was drinking. But after my dad left, she just, I guess, considered coming out of the closet and started drinking again. And she said, "I'm not going to stop." And I said, "Well, you've really got a problem, don't you think?" And she says, "No, I don't." So I started going back to Al-Anon, and I started back into Al-Anon at the West Covina men's meeting, and also in the other West Covina area. And remember going into those meetings, in the mixed meetings, and I would go in there saying, "Okay, I've got this alcoholic at home. And what can I do for it? Say if I do this or do that," and all they would do is keep coming back. And I says, "But something's got to be done. Maybe if I say this or do this or whatever it is like that." And he says, "Well, whatever makes you comfortable, And I got so tired of hearing all this stuff that they were telling me, because that wasn't the answer. Because me, like many people who come into Al-Anon, that are married or have a spouse that they come to Al-Anon for, came for the reason to try to get this person sober. And that's why I came in. I thought you'd have the answer for me to get her sober. And I kept trying, and nothing was working. And I put her again into another retreatment place in Pomona. And you notice I said I put her into there. She never requested to be put anywhere, She hated that place. And so I remember her coming home on weekends, and she said, "I'm going to she put these pills in the glove compartment. She says, I'm not going to take those pills this weekend. I'm going to drink. And I says, well, okay, whatever makes you comfortable, dear. And she did. And I remember sitting around. We had a swimming pool, and I remember sitting around the swimming pool and just white-knuckling, hanging on to that chair or lounge or whatever it is, and there was all this noise coming from inside the house. And she was the only one in there, but she's yelling and screaming and having crazy fits. And I remember also at the men's meeting. Oh, I remember the men's meeting. There weren't a whole lot of the men at those meetings, but all but two of us were married to sober alcoholics. And I remember them saying, "Oh, we're so grateful that we're married to an alcoholic." And then Jack and I would look at each other and say, "Oh no!" I thought, no, they were not married to an alcoholic. They were, because they didn't go through what we were going through. It took me many, many years to realize that the reason they were grateful for being married to an alcoholic was because it brought them into Al-Anon, and that didn't occur to me for many, many years later. And so one of the gentlemen from that men's meeting used to come to my house and talk to my wife, and he would talk to her about her alcoholism in ways that I could not figure out. I don't know what he was saying that I couldn't say. And he convinced her to go to an AA meeting one night. And I says, "Oh, great." He says, "Okay, Bernie," he says, "I'm going to take Jane to this AA meeting. You're going to go to the West Covina meeting while we're there." And I says, "Good, yeah." And that was one of my regular meetings that I went to. And when I was at that meeting, and I said, "Oh, guess where she is tonight?" And, they all went, "Oh, good. Keep coming back, Bernie." And what I failed to tell them was that I promised her if she went to that AA meeting, that after the meeting, that I would take her to the liquor store around the corner and buy her whatever much amount of booze she was. But I didn't tell on myself. So that was the one and only AA meeting she went to, other than what she went to at one of those two rehab places. Then in 40 years ago in September, you know how hot it can get in September. Well, we know, we just went through a whole bunch of it. Anyway, she locked herself in the house, closed all the doors, windows, everything else. We lived in an all-electric house except for a gas fireplace. And so she decided to follow through on some of her threats that she was going to kill herself. And so she put herself down in front of the fireplace and turned the gas on. Unfortunately, she wanted to have one last cigarette. And so the house exploded with her in it, and she ended up with third-degree burns over 90% of her body. And she was helicoptered to SC Medical Center, burn ward, and I was able to go and visit her maybe for 5 minutes a day. And I had to wear gowns and masks and everything else. And I remember one day when I was there, she could not talk because she had burned her esophagus and her throat. And she was trying to talk to me, and I had to get down real close to her, and I asked, I said, "Yeah, what do you want?" And she said, "Well, I want to go home." And this is something that I'm not proud of, but I stood up and I said, "Well, I know why you want to go home. You want to go home and have some more alcohol. You just want to drink some more, don't you? And that was one of my famous moments. Anyway, that woman she passed away after a week in the hospital, and I'm going to tell on myself, Michael. She passed away, and the death certificate said that she died from pneumonia, which was the direct cause of her passing away. And I know that the indirect cause of it was her alcoholism. Now, the last time I talked to a group like this and told that story, some kind of a Freudian slip, I guess, or something, I says, well, the gift certificate said that she died from pneumonia. And I turned to turned to the taper and I says, can't you erase that? And he says, no, he's not going to erase it. So I don't know. So anyway, I kept coming to Al-Anon. All of my family members back in Pennsylvania wanted me to come back, and I says, nope. I says, I think I found something that I like here. I have a job here, and I like the people that I hang around with here. So I stuck around some more. Went to a lot of meetings, increased my meetings. Did a lot of, started getting into service work, and did quite a bit of that. And needless to say, there weren't, like I mentioned, there weren't too many men in this program, but there were a lot of ladies, a lot of single ones trolling. And and they saw a good candidate, you know, and so I started asking this one lady out. Well, what she did was, and if she were here, I would telling myself, well, she caught me at a meeting one night, and she says, hey, Bernie, she said, are you going to the AA meeting tomorrow night? Because we used to go to a mixed meeting on Friday night at the Alano Club in West Covina. And I said, yeah, I am. And she says, well, would you mind picking me up? She says, because my boys want to use the car. And I thought, boy, what a pickup line that is. You know, it's just so found out that she had 6 children, 5 boys and 1 girl, and they were all teenagers. And anyway, we started going out together. We became friends. We became good friends, and then we became really good friends. And I had a pool, and she did, and she liked hanging out at my house a lot. So we decided we were going to get married. So we did. But, you know, with the 6 teenagers, you know, I have an accounting background, and so my thought is, well, how long are they going to be around? You know? So, I take it from your laughter, you know what's coming. Well, we sold her house and moved into the house that I was in, and we released the 3 oldest ones. They were old enough to do that. We brought the 3 youngest ones with us. And the 3 youngest ones that came with us, the oldest of the 3, he was extremely popular in high school. And he was also popular where we moved to also, and I couldn't figure out why he was so popular, because these kids would come to the door, knock on the door, and says, "Hey, is Corey home?" And I'd say, "Yeah, yeah." He says, we can see him." And then they go down the end of this driveway, and they'd be talking and stuff like that. So, needless to say, one of his older brothers told on him, and we found out that he's selling drugs at the end of the driveway, coming from our house. And I got the job. I'm a lover, not a fighter, but I got the job of telling him he has to move, you know. And so I tried to confront him this one particular day, which I did. And after I told him he had to move, and this was not acceptable behavior for our house, after I told him all this stuff, I went to the bedroom, my back went into spasms, and I had to lay down, and I couldn't move for hours because there was something that I'm not used to doing, because we did not have any children by my first wife, and this was all new to me, you know. And so,
to obtain additional copies, receive a free catalog of AA and Al-Anon talks, or to find out about our tape and CD of the Month Club, call Encore Audio Archives at 1-800-878-1308, or visit our website at www.12steptapes.com.
That was that child. So with the 2 younger ones, the 2 youngest ones, the daughter is the youngest of all 6 of them. And so she and her brother next to her did not get along very well. So we ended up having little holes put in the bathroom doors and stuff like that around the house. But anyway, the 3 oldest ones that were released, needless to say, all of a sudden they started living their lives, but their lives weren't going according to our plan. So they started coming back. And they started bringing little ones with them. Like the number 2 son has, they lived in Whittier, and he worked at a restaurant, and he had just had a baby, and his wife called one day, and she says, well, we just got kicked out of our apartment because he couldn't pay the rent, and can we come in and live with you? And we said, well, yeah, under certain conditions. He has to go to, because what happened was the rent was going up his nose, and I said, yes, if he goes to NA and you go to Al-Anon. And so they moved in for a while, and it became too uncomfortable for both of them, so they moved up north somewhere. The oldest one was, he lived in Yucca Valley with his wife and 2 children. And Yucca Valley is kind of barren for a lot of ways, and he wasn't doing too good financially, so he decided to dig into the ground out there in Yucca Valley and build a greenhouse. And it wasn't flowers, let me tell you that. But he ended up in jail, they came to his place, put him in handcuffs in front of his children, and went off to jail. Fortunately, Jane and I had enough program to realize that, we couldn't do anything for him. All we can do is support him, and we're not going to do anything about his problem, and he'll have to figure it out from himself. Now, you heard me just say that Jane and I did this, So I want to tell you that my second wife's name was Jane also. My first wife's name was Jane. They both spelled it the same way, Jayne, and they both had red hair. And the reason I tell people that I married a second wife named Jane was because in case I woke up in the middle of the night or something, or in a fit of passion or something, and happened to yell out the wrong name, she wouldn't know. But that is not really true. But anyway, Jane was like I say, I met her in Al-Anon, and she was in Al-Anon with me, and she's had more years in Al-Anon than I did, and she practiced her program a lot better than I did, or I learned a lot from her, let me tell you that way. She sponsored a lot of people. And I remember listening to her on her end of the conversation on telephones, and I learned a lot of things that she would tell these people. And no matter how long you're in this program, or how long I'm in this program, I realize that there's always something I can learn. And there's always a lot of stuff that I can forget also, that I've learned on this program. Several months ago, I was belaboring or bemoaning the fact that I failed to do something or failed to tell some people something that I should have told them so that it would make their situation a little bit easier. And I was talking about it, and I was kind of putting myself down for doing all this, And this newcomer that I was talking to about this looked at me and he says, Bernie, you're going to have to let that go. And I thought, oh, really? Listen to this newbie telling the old what to do. So I never, like I say, never too old to learn, and never too old to be told that I'm not working my program the way I should be and the way I talk. So anyway, the fact that my wife did what she did and the way she did it was several months after I came into Al-Anon, and I didn't really realize the first step until after she committed suicide. Because it was at that point in time that I finally realized what you were telling me, that there was, I was powerless over alcohol, I was powerless over alcoholic, and there wasn't anything I could have done about her alcoholism. There wasn't anything I could have done about what she did, because I tried everything. I tried to say anything that I could, and nothing worked. So it was at that particular time that I realized that the first step. And so then I started thinking, well, maybe I better start working the regular program, the rest of the program, you know. So I went and did the second and third steps were important to me. I was brought up in a religion that I never did give up, and I still don't give it up. And I believe in a power, a God, my understanding. And to this day, I believe that God can. It guides me in every way that I know of, and I am eternally grateful for my association with my higher power. For the fourth step, it took me 4 years ever to do a fourth step. I don't recommend this to anybody. And like I say, there weren't too many men in this program that I could have trusted with a fifth step. I did it autobiographically way because there wasn't too many. There was a small blueprint for progress that was out at that time. It was very little. And I didn't like it because if I started looking at the questions, they could be answered yes, no, and maybe, and that was about it. So I did it autobiographically, and there was another gentleman in this Tuesday night men's meeting that I went to that was doing it at the same time too, and neither one of us had a sponsor at the time, so we decided that we would do a fifth step together. And we did. He was a teacher, and we got together on a Saturday at his school, and we did our fifth steps together, burned them in the little fireplace that was there, and that was that part of my program. Now the sixth and seventh step, I realized, I learned very recently that the sixth step is telling me that I'm doing something that I should not be doing. And the seventh step is telling me that I should be doing something that I'm not doing. And so it did, that kind of cleared it out for me for those two steps. And so I realized that on the sixth step, I'm doing things that I should not be doing. And one of the things was I am very judgmental. And, I could go around this room now and judge people the way they're dressed, the way they're groomed, or whatever it is, the way they look, or what their program was working, or whatever. And so I realized that this is a defect that I have, and it's getting better, but it's not totally out of it yet. So I realize that that's going to be a continuing process for me, And as far as something in my shortcomings that I'm not doing, something that I should be doing, is taking care of myself, making sure that I do take care of myself, and I try to do that bodily, spiritually, and whatever the third one is, I can't remember. Anyway, so that was that. So as far as the eighth and ninth step, now the amends steps, it took me 10 years after the death of my spouse, my first spouse, that I decided that there was the only way I could possibly make an amends to her. I found myself at her gravesite out in Ontario, sitting down on the ground and talking to her, sometimes loud and sometimes just thinking that, hey, I'm not the angel that I present to some of the people that I talk to, that, hey, I said some things I shouldn't have said, I did some things I should not have done, and, maybe there was some stuff I should have done. I says, but for whatever it is, I couldn't, I'm sorry for it, it was beyond my control at that time, and I know I could have done better, and of course we know that the amends step is not only just a verbal things, it is a change of lifestyle, and I had to realize that I have to, like Lorene said earlier today, that she loves the alcoholics, and I do too, but at one point in time, alcoholics were not one of my favorite type of people, because I equated them all with how my association was with Jane and other people in my life. But today I can say that I do enjoy alcoholics. There are many of them in my association that I associate with, and I enjoy each and every one of them. And a lot of them have passed on recently, and it really affects me, because I really loved a lot of those alcoholics that have gone very recently. Another amend that I made was the transition between Jane number 1 and Jane number 2, I was having an association with another Al-Anon lady at the time, and it was progressing to the point where it was an intimate relationship, but in the meantime, Jane number 2 was coming into my life, and so I was kind of leaning towards Jane number 2, and I wasn't really happy with my what was going on here. So I thought, well, I'm going to have to break this relationship up, and I didn't know how to do it. So I had to talk to this lady one night, and I told her, I says, hey, I can't be with you anymore. I said, this is something that I can't be doing. I says, it's during Lent, and it's against my religion to act this way, and so I'm going to have to cut off this relationship, you know. I had forgotten all about it for years until at one of these Southern California conventions down in San Diego, I don't know how many years ago it was, this lady came up to me and tapped me on the shoulder and says, hi, Bernie, how you doing? I says, hi, and I did not recognize this lady. And so she said to me, she said, oh, my name is, and today I still don't remember her name. And so I realized when she did tell me her name what the thing was, and I said, oh my God, and I pulled her aside and I says, hey, listen, I really have to make an amends to you. And I says, you know, that excuse that I gave you about during Lent and I couldn't do this anymore. She said, I said, you know, that was not really true. I was having an association with another person. And she looked at me and she says, Bernie, if you think I believe that story, you're crazy. I says, oh, thank God. But anyway, so that was, she wasn't on my amends list, but she became on my amends list when she showed up that day. So I realized that, so life goes on. Life went on with Jane, number 2, and we were married 37 years to. I was married 37 years to that lady, and like I said, the kids started coming back, and that has developed into 16 grandchildren. We just had our 5th great-grandchild born 2 weeks ago, and a number 6 is due in May or April or May coming up. And so for this, I am eternally grateful for that association that I have, because, like I said, I did not have any children of my own, but these 6 children identify me as Pop or Dad. Their biological father abandoned them shortly after they got, he and Jane got divorced, and then he passed away several years later. The grandkids, I'm Grandpa, and that I'm the only Grandpa they know it on this side. And like I say, that those 6 children gave Jane and myself reason to stay in Al-Anon. Even though neither one of us were alcoholic, but we have alcohol, cocaine, addiction to prescription drugs. There's bipolar in there also. And now I'm finding out that it's coming into the grandchildren too. So as a matter of fact, a week or so ago, I found out that the 23-year-old granddaughter, I was informed that she told her father that he was an alcoholic and she needed help. And so now she's in some kind of a rehab place in Costa Mesa, which I understand. Someone told me that Costa Mesa is really the capital of the rehab place. I don't know, is that true? Yeah. Anyway, so she is there. She's only 23 years old. And so that, like I say, there's always... there's always reason for me to be in this program, because it brings to light the fact that I really, really need it. Now, as far as going back to the steps, in the 11th step, the 10th step, I'm sorry, continuing to take personal inventory. I do that really on a daily basis. In the evening, I really do review my day. And I know tonight when I get to bed, I'm going to think about everything that I should have said today that I didn't say. And but anyway, I try to go through my day and figure out what was good, what was bad, and if it only says when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's everything that was wrong all the time, So I can always tell myself at nighttime, oh, you did a pretty good job, So that's all right, good deal. Yes, you may leave. I told him I'd give him permission. So then the 11th step, the prayer and meditation, is one of my favorite things. Like I said, when I walked in the morning, I would do my prayer and meditation and think about my life. I would thank God that I woke up in the morning and continue to guide my day. And the 12th step is really important to me too, because I like to practice these principles in all our affairs, and I like to continue going to meetings. I go to quite a few meetings now that I'm single again, and that helps me a lot, going to the meetings and working with people. When I say it, I like to practice these principles in all my affairs. I like to think that everywhere I go, I like to be an example of this program, and love whatever it is that I do, and say to people, and hopefully that I can get my message across to those people that I associate with on a daily basis. Now, like I say, I was married to this other lady for 37 years, to an Al-Anon lady. I was 14 years to the alcoholic, 37 years to an Al-Anon lady. And like I say, the 14 years to the alcoholic was a challenge. The 37 years with an Al-Anon lady, a lot of it just was a challenge too. Not nearly as bad as the challenge in the first one, though. If you'd asked me which one I would prefer to do again, the only reason I'd want to do the first one over again was to get to this program. With the second wife, with the 37 years of Al-Anon, I loved every moment of it. She was my best friend. She had a lot of health problems the last days of her lives, last years of her lives, as a matter of fact. And I wish she were with me today to witness this occasion. But unfortunately, she's not physically here, but she's in my heart. And I thank you all for being here today. I thank Lorene for inviting me. And love you all, and God bless you all. Thank you. Is that good enough?
You had plenty of time. I didn't warn you. You had to stop.
It's done.
Okay, you did great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I love you, Bernie, very much.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think. Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right, but I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.